At my promotion dinner, my brother announced, "Mom and Dad say you don't give anything to the family." I calmly replied, "Great, then the $3,500 pay for their mortgage monthly stops today." Dad choked on his wine and turned pale. "Well, let's go. My name is Tessalyn Ward and I'm 38 years old. I work at an investment company where I just got promoted to senior manager. I'm married to Lance Ward, and we have a son named Eli. My parents are Howard and Miriam, and I have a younger brother, Carter, who's 3 years younger than me. I should probably tell you how I grew up because it explains a lot about why things turned out the way they did. From the time I was little, my parents made it clear that I wasn't their priority. My mom, Miriam, would tell me I was old enough to take care of myself, even when I was just a kid. She'd brush me off whenever I tried to talk to her, acting like she had more important things to do. My dad, Howard, was even worse. He actually told me to my face that he already had a favorite child, and it wasn't me. I remember trying so hard to make them proud. I'd bring home good grades, help around the house, do everything I could think of to get them to notice me. But nothing worked. Howard would make these jokes about how I wasn't smart enough or pretty enough to amount to much. He'd say things like, "Tessalyn, you're not too smart and not very attractive. You should be content with little. But your brother Carter, he was born to shine. He'll make an excellent politician or businessman. Or maybe he'll become a world-famous movie star." Carter grew up hearing this stuff, so naturally he thought he was better than me. He never asked what I thought about anything. He just told me what he needed from me and expected me to do it. And whenever he screwed something up, which was often, my parents blamed me for not watching him closely enough. I remember this one time in high school when Miriam found out Carter had been skipping his mandatory courses. She completely lost it on me. She screamed that it was my job to watch my younger brother so he wouldn't fall in with a bad crowd or get into trouble. I was so tired of being responsible for him that I told them maybe they should watch their precious son themselves so I could go away to college. That's when Howard said through gritted teeth that since I was so irresponsible and ungrateful, I could go my own way and forget about my parents. And since I had no parents, I'd have to pay for my education myself. So that's what I did. I packed my stuff and left for campus. I got a job as a mascot at the nearest shopping mall. It was exhausting work, dancing around in a hot costume, but it paid the bills and helped me save for tuition. I worked every spare moment I had when I wasn't in class. I was determined to prove I could make it on my own. In my second year, things got a little easier. I started getting substantial tuition discounts because I passed all my exams with straight A's. The school even nominated me for student fraternity president, but I turned it down because I knew it would take too much time away from work and studies. Still, I helped other students whenever they needed advice about choosing courses or attending elective classes. Felt good to be useful to someone. After college, I applied for an internship at an investment company. The selection process was brutal, but I made it through. At first, they paid me almost nothing, just a symbolic salary. I had to juggle 2 jobs for a while, going straight from the mall to the office and back again. But eventually, they raised my salary enough that I could work at the company full-time and quit the mascot gig. I threw myself into learning everything I could about investments. I studied the markets, read every report I could get my hands on, and asked questions constantly. I got good at it, really good. I even bought shares in several small companies with the little bit of money I'd managed to save. When I sold those shares later, I made a decent profit. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to make me realize I could actually build a career in this field. That's how I met Lance. I was at an investment forum, and he was there representing his brokerage company. We got to talking about market trends, and I guess he liked what I had to say because he asked for my number. He started calling me, taking me out to dinner, sending flowers to my office. It was nice to have someone pay attention to me like that. We dated for 3 years before we decided to get married. I was nervous about telling my parents, but I figured they should at least know. When I called to invite them to the wedding, Howard and Miriam couldn't have been less interested. My mom only agreed to come after I mentioned that very influential people would be there, good acquaintances of Lance's. That got her attention real quick. At the wedding, my parents didn't spend a single minute with me. They camped out at the table where the wealthy guests were sitting and spent the entire evening trying to impress them. It was actually embarrassing watching them act like that, but I tried not to let it ruin my day. I had Lance, and that was what mattered. After the honeymoon, Lance and I came back ready to build our life together. He wanted to open his own investment platform but needed to learn more about the risks involved. I was happy to help him research and plan. 2 years later we had Eli, and I took time off to focus on him and our family. Thanks to my work, we had saved up a good financial cushion so we could afford for me to take that time. That's when my father called asking to meet. I was shocked when Howard called. He hadn't reached out to me in years, not even after Eli was born. He acted like I didn't exist unless he needed something. But when he asked to meet, part of me got excited. Maybe he wanted to apologize. Maybe he finally realized how badly they treated me. I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop downtown. Howard showed up with this huge smile on his face like we were old friends catching up. He asked about Eli, about Lance, about my job. Felt weird hearing him pretend to care. Then he got to the real reason he wanted to see me. Miriam and I bought a new house, he said. A large mansion in Oakmere. I was about to congratulate him when his expression changed. He put on this sad face and said, "I feel awkward asking you about such things, but Miriam and I can't handle the mortgage in such amounts. Could you help us? We'll return the money as soon as we close the mortgage issue. You could come visit us with little Eli if you want." That last part got me. The idea that my parents wanted me and Eli to visit, that maybe we could be a real family, made me forget every terrible thing they'd ever done. I told him I'd help with the mortgage payments. Howard hugged me and thanked me, saying how much it meant to him and Miriam. So I started sending them $4,200 every month. On top of that, I paid $520 for their medical insurance. They called a few months later saying they needed money for home repairs, so I helped with that too. The expenses kept adding up, but I didn't care. I thought I was finally doing something that would make them love me. Lance wasn't happy about it. He'd see me writing those checks every month and shake his head. One night he said, "Tessa, do you really think they'll pay you back?" "They said they would," I told him. "And do you believe them?" Got defensive. "They're my parents, Lance." He held up his hands. "I'm not trying to start a fight. I just don't want you to get hurt again." But he didn't push it. Lance knew how much I wanted my parents' approval, even if he didn't understand why. So he let me keep sending the money, and he never brought it up again. Years went by like this. Eli started elementary school. Lance worked on developing his own investment platform, spending long hours perfecting every detail. I kept climbing the ladder at my company, taking on bigger clients and more responsibility. The senior partners started noticing my work. I brought in major accounts and never missed a deadline. Then one day my boss called me into his office. I thought maybe I'd made a mistake on something, but instead, he told me I was being promoted to senior manager. He said the partners had been watching my performance and were impressed with my contribution to the company's growth. I couldn't believe it. All those years of hard work were finally paying off. When I told Lance that evening, he picked me up and spun me around the kitchen. "I'm so proud of you," he said. "You earned this." Eli hugged my legs and said, "Does this mean you're the boss now?" I laughed. "Not quite, buddy. But it's a big step up." Lance suggested we celebrate with a family dinner. "Let's invite your parents and Carter," he said. "Make it a real celebration." I hesitated. My family wasn't exactly the celebratory type, at least not when it came to my accomplishments. But Lance insisted. He said it was important to share good news with family and maybe this would be a chance to bring everyone together. So I called my parents and Carter and invited them to dinner at a nice restaurant. I made reservations at a place downtown that had great food and a private room for parties. Everyone agreed to come, which surprised me. Maybe they really were proud of me this time. The night of the dinner, Lance, Eli, and I arrived early to make sure everything was set up properly. My parents and Carter showed up right on time, which was unusual for them. Carter was wearing an expensive suit, and my parents were dressed up too. We ordered appetizers and drinks, and everyone seemed to be in a good mood. When the main course arrived, Lance stood up with his glass. "I want to make a toast to my amazing wife," he said. "Tessa has worked incredibly hard to get where she is, and this promotion is well deserved. I'm so proud of her." We all clinked glasses. Then my father stood up and said a few words about how I'd always been determined. It wasn't much, but coming from him it felt like something. My mother nodded along, smiling. Then it was Carter's turn. My brother stood up, holding his glass of champagne. He had this strange smile on his face, almost like he was enjoying a private joke. He looked around the table, making sure everyone was watching him. "Mom and Dad say you don't give anything to the family," he said. The words hung in the air. There was envy in his voice and open anger. He was enjoying this, watching me squirm. The smile on his face got wider as he waited for my reaction. I sat there stunned for a moment. I couldn't believe he just said that, especially here in front of Lance and Eli. All those years of sending money, all those sacrifices I'd made. And this was what I got in return. My parents sat there saying nothing, not defending me, not correcting Carter. They just looked down at their plates. Something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let them treat me like this anymore. I wasn't going to keep begging for scraps of their affection while they threw my generosity back in my face. I looked directly at my parents and said calmly, "Great. Then those $4,200 that I pay for your mortgage every month stop as of today." My father choked on his wine. My mother's face went completely white. Carter's smug smile disappeared. "What are you talking about?" Miriam said quietly. "I'm talking about the $312,000 I've given you over 6 years to pay off the mortgage and repairs on your house in Oakmere." The silence at that table was deafening. My father kept coughing, trying to catch his breath after choking on his wine. My mother stared at me like I'd just slapped her across the face. Carter's mouth hung open, all his smugness completely gone. "Tessa, you can't just," Miriam started to say. I stood up. "Yes, I can. I've been paying your bills for 6 years, and apparently, that means I don't give anything to the family. So, we're done here." I grabbed my purse and looked at Lance and Eli. "Let's go." Lance threw some cash on the table to cover our meals and followed me out. Eli looked confused, but he held my hand as we walked to the car. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see their faces or hear whatever excuses they were preparing. In the car, Lance reached over and squeezed my hand. "You did the right thing," he said. "Did I?" My hands were shaking. Maybe I should have just kept my mouth shut. "No," he said firmly. "You stood up for yourself. That took guts." Eli piped up from the back seat. "Mom, why was Uncle Carter being mean?" I didn't know how to explain it to a kid. "Sometimes people say things they don't mean, honey. But you meant what you said, right? About the money." "Yes," I told him. "I meant it." When we got home I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the dinner in my head, wondering if I'd overreacted. But then I'd remember Carter's face, that cruel smile, and I knew I'd done the right thing. I was tired of being treated like I didn't matter. 2 days later my phone rang. It was a call from my mother, but I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. When I listened to it, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Miriam wasn't apologizing. She was demanding that I continue making the mortgage payments. Her voice was cold and angry, like I was the one who'd done something wrong. "Tessa Lynn, I don't know what's gotten into you," she said on the message, "but you need to transfer the money like you always do. Your father and I are counting on it." I deleted the voicemail and blocked her number. Then I blocked my father and Carter too. I was done playing their games, but they weren't done with me. Over the next few weeks I started getting calls and messages from relatives I barely knew. Cousins, aunts, uncles. All of them telling me how disappointed they were in me. My parents had launched a full campaign to make me look like the bad guy. They were telling everyone that I'd abandoned them in their time of need, that I was selfish and ungrateful. Carter even tried to turn Lance against me. He called my husband and said I was being irrational, that I needed help. Lance shut him down fast. "Your sister has been supporting your parents for years," Lance told him. Where were you during all that time? Carter didn't have an answer for that. The whole situation was exhausting. I'd come home from work and find more messages from relatives lecturing me about family loyalty. It got so bad that I started ignoring my phone completely. Lance handled the calls, telling people we weren't interested in discussing it. Then one day my Aunt Ruth called. She's my mother's sister, and I'd always liked her. She was one of the few relatives who treated me like a real person. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "My honey, I need to talk to you," Ruth said. "I just found out what's been going on." "I'm sure you've heard their version," I said tiredly. "I have, but I don't believe it. I know Miriam and Howard, and I know how they treated you growing up. So I did some digging. That got my attention." "What do you mean?" "Carter knew about the money," she said. "He's known the whole time. Miriam told him years ago that you were paying the mortgage. He never said anything because he didn't want to have to pay for it himself." I sat down hard on the couch. "Are you serious?" "Completely. He knew exactly what you were doing for them, and he still stood up at that dinner and said you didn't give anything to the family. He wanted to embarrass you." Felt sick. Carter hadn't just been ignorant or thoughtless. He deliberately tried to humiliate me in front of my husband and son, knowing full well what I'd been sacrificing for our parents. "There's more," Ruth said. "Your parents posted something on Facebook about you. They're saying you don't realize what you're doing and that Lance is controlling your finances and taking advantage of you." "They what?" I couldn't believe it. They were lying about my husband now, trying to make him look like he was manipulating me. "I'm sorry, honey," Ruth said. "I just thought you should know the truth about all this." After I hung up with her, I showed Lance the Facebook post. His face went red as he read it. "This is slander," he said. "They're straight up lying about me." "I know," I said. "I'm so sorry they dragged you into this." "Don't apologize. This isn't your fault." He thought for a moment. "We need to protect ourselves and protect Eli. Who knows what else they might say or do." That's when I decided to block my parents on all my messaging apps. Then I did something I never thought I'd have to do. Hired a lawyer. I explained the whole situation to the lawyer, showed him the Facebook posts and the messages from relatives. He said we had grounds for a defamation case if we wanted to pursue it, but at minimum, we should have documentation of everything in case they escalated. The lawyer sent a cease and desist letter to my parents, telling them to stop making false statements about me and my family. He also advised me to keep records of any further contact attempts. For a while after that, things got quiet. My parents stopped posting about me on social media. The calls from relatives slowed down. I thought maybe they'd finally gotten the message and would leave us alone. Then about a month and a half later, I ran into Ruth at the grocery store. She looked uncomfortable when she saw me. "I have some news," she said. "Your parents lost the house." I stood there in the middle of the grocery store aisle trying to process what Ruth had just told me. My parents had lost the house. The mansion in Oakmere that had caused all this trouble was gone. "What happened?" I asked. Ruth shifted her shopping basket from one hand to the other. "They couldn't make the mortgage payments without your help. The bank foreclosed. They had to move to a tiny apartment in the suburbs." Part of me felt guilty. Another part of me felt relief. And honestly, a big part of me felt nothing at all. I'd spent so many years trying to earn their love, trying to be good enough, and it had never worked. Now they were facing the consequences of their own choices. "How are they doing?" I asked, not because I really wanted to know, but because it seemed like the right thing to ask. "Not great," Ruth said. "Miriam is furious. Howard is depressed. And Carter lost his job." "Carter lost his job?" "Yeah. He was working for some startup that went under. Now he's working as a salesperson at a supermarket because he needs money desperately." I thought about Carter standing at that dinner with his champagne glass, that smug smile on his face as he tried to humiliate me. Now he was stocking shelves and ringing up groceries. I didn't feel happy about it, but I didn't feel sorry for him either. "They've been asking about you," Ruth said carefully, "wondering if maybe you'd reconsider helping them." No, I said immediately. I'm done with that. Ruth nodded. I figured as much. I just thought I should tell you what's going on. We said goodbye and I finished my shopping. On the drive home, I thought about everything that had happened. My childhood, the years of trying to prove myself, the mortgage payments, the dinner, all of it. For the first time, I realized I didn't owe my parents anything. I'd spent decades chasing their approval, and I'd never gotten it. Now I was free. When I got home, Lance was helping Eli with his homework at the kitchen table. They looked up when I walked in. Everything okay? Lance asked. He could always tell when something was on my mind. I ran into Ruth at the store, I said. My parents lost the house. Lance studied my face. How do you feel about that? Honestly, I don't know. But I know I'm not going to help them. Good, he said. You shouldn't. Eli looked up from his math worksheet. Are Grandma and Grandpa okay? I sat down at the table with them. They're going through some tough times right now, but they'll figure it out. Are we going to help them? No, buddy. Sometimes people need to handle their own problems. He seemed to accept that and went back to his homework. I watched him work, his little face scrunched up in concentration, and I felt grateful. Eli would never grow up the way I did. He'd never wonder if his parents loved him or if he was good enough. Lance and I made sure he knew he was valued every single day. Over the next few months, I heard occasional updates through Ruth. My parents were struggling in their small apartment. Carter was still working at the supermarket and hating every minute of it. Miriam kept asking relatives if they'd heard from me, if anyone could convince me to start helping again. The answer was always no. I blocked more relatives who tried to guilt-trip me. I stayed off social media where my parents might see my posts. I focused on my family and my career. Work was going great. The promotion had opened up new opportunities, and I was handling bigger accounts than ever before. Lance's investment platform was finally ready to launch, and early feedback was positive. Eli was doing well in school and had made some good friends. One evening, Lance and I were sitting on the couch after Eli had gone to bed. We were just relaxing, watching TV, and I realized how peaceful everything felt. No stress about mortgage payments, no anxiety about whether my parents would approve of me, no drama with Carter. I'm happy, I said out loud, surprising myself. Lance smiled. Yeah. For the first time in my life, I feel like I can just breathe. I don't have to prove anything to anyone. You never had to prove anything, he said. You were always enough. I leaned against him. I wish I'd realized that sooner. You realize it now. That's what matters. He was right. I'd wasted so much time and money and energy trying to win my parents' love. But I'd had love all along. Lance had loved me from the day we met. Eli loved me unconditionally. That was real family. That was what mattered. My parents never apologized. Carter never admitted he was wrong. And I stopped waiting for them to. I accepted that they were never going to be the family I wanted them to be, and I moved on. I refused to restore communication with any of them. When relatives asked if I'd reconsider, I told them firmly that the answer was no. I'm still working at the investment company and doing better than ever. Lance's platform is successful. Eli is growing up surrounded by love and support. We have a good life, and I built it myself, without any help from my parents. Sometimes I think about that dinner, about the moment Carter said I didn't give anything to the family. In a weird way, he did me a favor. He showed me exactly who they all were, and he gave me permission to stop trying. I'll never have the parents I wanted as a kid, but I have the family I chose as an adult, and that's more than enough. I learned that you can't force people to value you. You can't pay for their love or work hard enough to earn their respect if they're determined not to give it. All you can do is value yourself and surround yourself with people who see your worth. That's exactly what I did, and I've never looked back.